typical portrayal, the representation of Ambedkar in his time was that he was outside the fold of mainstream nationalism, that he was himself too close to the British, because, as you know, he had repeatedly gone before commissions of inquiry instituted by the colonial government. He gave testimony before the Southborough Commission in 1919. He gave testimony before the Simon Commission in 1928, a commission that had been boycotted by the Indian National Congress because it was unrepresentative of national interests. There wasn't a single Indian member on the body of the Simon Commission. And so when Ambedkar chose to go before these commissions, and when he chose to go before the colonial state and make demands for untouchable rights, rights for the depressed classes at that time, he was seen as an anti-nationalist, if you will. This was certainly the way that he was portrayed by many important Congress nationalists. And what we see today instead, I think, is that Ambedkar's arguments about caste, about the necessity for democratizing a society that was deeply stratified, that was unequal, where inequality rather than the idea of equality pervaded people's common sense, people's popular perceptions of how society ought to be organized. We see today that Ambedkar was remarkably prescient in all of his critiques of Indian society and his critiques of caste. So what we might say about Ambedkar today, I think, is that he was probably the most important thinker of his time, and that he, in fact, launched a democratic revolution that has fructified today. What we see happening today on the ground in terms of caste politics in India is the rise of a variety of new political groups. The most important is a group called the Bahujan Samaj Party, the party of the majority, which has come into prominence in North India, based on a platform that takes up Ambedkar as the most important ideologue. The argument is really to try to build a unity of lower castes and Dalits and Muslims. And what we see is that the language of democracy has been used most prolifically, profoundly, and with the greatest success, if you will, by lower castes and untouchables in India today. And what this has actually allowed for is the democratization of Indian society. Something that Ambedkar asked for, now almost 80 years ago, but something that we see coming to fruition only today.